The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Salem Media of Hawaii.
Welcome to Hawaii Money Resource with financial advisor Marko Mijuskovic.
Marko Mijuskovic is registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities LLC, 7 Hanover Square, New York, 10004, and at Wealth Strategy Partners, 677 Ala Moana Boulevard, Suite 720, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. This show is for informational purposes only. Individual risk tolerance and investment objectives must be reviewed prior to making any specific recommendations.
And now your host, Marko Mijuskovic.
Welcome back. You're listening to Hawaii Money Resource. My name is Marko Mijuskovic, Senior Partner at Wealth Strategy Partners, also Certified Exit Planner. You're listening to Hawaii Money Resource every Wednesday night, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., 760 KGU AM or 95.1 FM. So you can find us on two frequencies. You can also download the podcast in case you miss our show by any chance at hawaiimoneyresource.com or businessexitplanninghawaii.com. Well, what we do over here since 2011, we are focusing on small business owners, entrepreneurs, try to pick their brain for 1 hour, try to see why they're doing what they're doing and why they're getting themselves in everyday work and all the hassles and what is the benefits of being a small business owner. So we try to learn from them and try to educate you. So if you are bored with your everyday life and you want to start a new career, start your own business, you're equipped with more knowledge and experience. So like every other week or every week, we do have a guest today. We're going to introduce our guest just in seconds. I want to remind you of Business Exit Planning Hawaii, ultimate resource for business owners in case they want to get out of the business in one point in the future. Of course, they want. We have a lot of good stuff, a lot of good reading material. You can go and check all of our events. We have some major events coming up for the remainder of the year. So please check us, businessexitplanninghawaii.com. If you're a business owner and you want to like to learn a little bit more and have one-on-one conversation with us, 808-695-2102, 808-695-2102. Okay, let's introduce our guest for today. His name is Dylan Butterbaugh. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, maybe a little bit volume for him. Dylan Butterbaugh from Manoa Chocolate. Dylan, first question, where is the sample?
Oh, shoot. Okay, so you're going to be really disappointed with this answer, but I was just at a meeting with the Hawaii Food Manufacturers Association.
And they took all the samples.
They did. The girls demanded samples, and I had samples, and I couldn't say no to them. So I'm going to have to come back and see you again or give you a factory tour.
Okay, I think I'd rather take the factory tour. Manoa Chocolate, like I said earlier, manoachocolate.com. Dylan, just a 30 seconds overview of your business.
Of the business. Okay, so we are making chocolate here in Hawaii. We're a bean-to-bar craft chocolate company. So we take the cacao seed and through a process of roasting, deshelling, grinding, and molding, we produce chocolate bars.
Dylan, listen, now I feel bad, like really, like a little bit upset because there is no chocolate. I'm a big fan of chocolate, but I will take that tour for sure, and I'll learn as much as I can about your business. Before we dive into the business and learn how this all started, Dylan, let's talk about you a little bit. Like, do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Yes, definitely. I like every aspect of the business. I love making chocolate. But I really like growing a industry and business here in Hawaii. That's
perfect.
A very appealing part of it for me.
Dylan, how do you manage your business, your entrepreneurial everyday routines with your personal life?
I don't have a personal life. Every day I go to the factory, and every day I look at it as one day more that I can take my business to that next level. I've got very real goals or visions, whatever you'd like to call them, and every day I work toward that. So if I take a day off, I kind of feel like I'm slacking.
So what are you doing right now? You kind of like consciously sacrificing your personal life for the benefits of the business. Am I correct?
Yeah. Now it's been long enough that it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It's just the routine.
Okay. And like, do you at least, does it at least look easier?
Yes. The first 2 years felt like treading water. Every single day it felt like the next day it could die. And then kind of pulled through, it was just persistence and lots of hours, and it was very intense because I didn't know how to run a business. I didn't really know how to make chocolate that well, and I didn't know how much engineering worked, and there's a lot of machines that are necessary in order to manufacture chocolate bars. So I learned all of that. It was a sink or swim thing. And after the first couple years, the business went through obviously growing pains, which it's still doing now. It's just getting a lot easier to manage. We're about 6.5 years old.
Because you went through the routines and you know how to handle certain stuff. We're going to talk about more about it in a second segment of today's show. But before we go into that, why don't we talk a little bit about you personally? Like, what do you do for fun? I know you said you don't have a personal life, but let's say maybe.
If we go back 5 or 6 years, I say 6 or 7 years. Okay. I used to surf a lot. I was born and raised in Kailua, and I was lucky enough to start surfing when I was like 5 years old. Played a lot of sports like soccer and baseball when I was younger. But surfing is something that I did a lot until about 23, 24 when I started the business. And that was a very big shift. I graduated from college around 23 or 24 and have done nothing since.
What kind of degree did you graduate? Because usually it's not going to be anything even remotely close to what you're doing right now.
No, it's not. I majored in Spanish, and that was only because I did a study abroad in Chile and came back with so many credits. It was one class a semester for 4 semesters. I had a major, and then I did double major in environmental studies, and that was a focus on sustainable development.
Does that help?
No. I mean, like, I've got my values in sustainability or the green movement, so to speak, and I try and incorporate as much of that as possible into the business. But no, I mean, it doesn't really apply.
So to summarize it, no life, all business right now. No, I assume there is no hobbies, like, since there is no free time to do anything. Does anything else interest you at this point other than just a growing chocolate industry in Hawaii, and getting better with your products and presentation and taste and client base and packaging, and I see all kind of good stuff on your website?
There's so much to learn just within how to run a business, how to grow a business, but also how to do what we do better. So how do we make better chocolate? How do we get better beans? How do we understand the genetics of the cacao and try and relate it to wine so that we can help people understand what we're doing? So that's kind of become the hobby. So, like, I got very into wine maybe about 4 years ago, just at first so I could try and relate it to chocolate so people could understand, and then I really started to like it.
Start drinking a lot.
Yeah, kind of.
Becoming alcoholic. I'm just kidding, but like that's what usually people are when they say I'm into the wine. They mean they're drinking a lot, because that's the only way how you can learn,
is
right?
A professional alcoholic.
Right, it is. Like, and he gets paid to be alcoholic. Anyway,
just got to know about it.
So why don't we take our first break, and once we come back, let's start talking about how this all started and why. It's a good topic because I see that a lot of stuff what you're doing. You also have a brick and mortar shop. Where is it located?
We're in Kailua, so that's where I was from.
That's where the manufacturing is, and also the front store
and retailing. And then we have 2 other aspects of the business, which is wholesaling and distribution. So
okay, we're going to learn all that in next 3 segments of today's show. Today's guest is Dylan Butterbaugh, Manoa Chocolate, manoachocolate.com in Kailua. My name is Marko Mijuskovic. You're listening Hawaii Money Resource. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
.760 KGU.
Part of the Wall Street Business Network.
In a minute, I'm going to drown in this pool, surrounded by friends and relatives. That's because Dad thinks Mom is watching me, and Mom thinks Dad is. But actually, nobody is watching me. And you rarely make a sound when you're struggling.
Don't assume someone else is watching. Become a water watchdog at abbyshope.org.
When Dad needed help getting around, I became his driver. Any daughter would do the same. But soon enough, he needed help doing more things, and it was up to me to be his personal shopper and financial manager, too. And before I knew it, Dad moved in with me, so I became his cook, his personal assistant, his physical therapist, and even his nurse. When I started taking care of Dad, I didn't realize all the roles I'd have to play. But no matter what, I know I'm still his daughter.
We understand the many roles you play. And to help, we created an online caregiving resource center. At aarp.org/caregiving, you can find resources and connect with the caregiving community. Together, we can better care for ourselves and the ones we love. Visit aarp.org/caregiving to learn more. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Once upon a time, there was a business owner who worked hard and watched his company flourish. Then came the time to sell his company and retire in Palm Beach. But the path to his happily ever after was full of pitfalls and monstrous taxes. Whatever was he to do?
It's not a fairy tale, and the wrong strategy can deprive you of a storybook ending. I'm Marko Mijuskovic, and I know about business valuation. I'm also a specialist in business exit, asset protection, and estate planning. Visit my website, businessexitplanninghawaii.com, and I promise you'll find more than just a trail of breadcrumbs.
BusinessExitPlanningHawaii.com is an online resource designed to help you prepare for the final stage of your business's life cycle. At BusinessExitPlanningHawaii.com, you'll have no trouble at all finding workshops, podcasts, videos, articles, and more. Your happily ever after is just a click away at BusinessExitPlanningHawaii.com.
Every single year, millions of average Americans like you have their personal lives virtually destroyed. In an instant, you could lose control of your bank accounts, credit cards, and worse, your very reputation can be stolen and violated. If you or a loved one is a victim of identity theft, FastIDRecovery.com can help you get it all back. At FastIDRecovery.com, you can put your trust in experts in the field of credit score restoration, IRS fraud resolution, document and ID replacement, and more. Without a fully managed protection and restoration service like FastIDRecovery.com, it can take hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars to reclaim what identity thieves have stolen and fix the chaos they leave behind. Your peace of mind is as valuable as your assets, and FastIDRecovery.com will get everything back, including your sanity. Relief is a simple click away at FastIDRecovery.com. That's FastIDRecovery.com.
You're listening to Hawaii Money Resource with financial advisor Marko Mijuskovic. If you'd like to speak to Marko, either on the air or after the show, call toll-free from Oahu and the outer islands, 877-695-2102. That's 877-695-2102.
Welcome back. You're listening to Hawaii Money Resource. My name is Marko Mijuskovic, Senior Partner at Wealth Strategy Partners, also Certified Exit Planner. You are listening to Hawaii Money Resource every Wednesday night, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., 760 a.m. KGU or 95.1 FM. BusinessExitPlanningHawaii.com. If you missed the show and you would like to download the podcast, that's the best place to go and get it. Well, and I know if you missed today's show, you should definitely go online, download the podcast, because today's guest is Dylan Butterbaugh, Manoa Chocolate, manoachocolate.com, also retail store in Kailua. Dylan, thanks so much for sharing a little bit about yourself and how you be honest with us that you don't have a personal life, that everything is focused around business and growing the business. Especially you are in business for the last 27 years. I'm just kidding.
Soon enough.
How long ago did you start?
I registered the LLC when I was still in college in my senior year. That was 2010.
Okay, so been a while already.
Yeah, but I didn't open the brick and mortar until 2012.
Okay, so 2 years later.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go down the memory lane. And like we understand from the previous segments that you graduated, you got your degree in completely something different. Remote, not even remotely close to what you're doing today. So, and I picked your brain during the break and you told me you didn't even like the chocolate. So what's the problem?
Yeah, growing up, I wasn't a big fan of chocolate, and it was mainly because I didn't ever have good chocolate. It was always the Hershey bars with lots of milk and sugar, and it was just the last thing left in my Halloween basket. But it was when I was at college, my buddy got the job studying the plant. So the University of Hawaii is an extension agency school for agriculture. And so farmers began calling the university saying, hey, why is this cacao pod red and this pod yellow? Or why is this seed purple and this seed white? And it's in the same pod. And so because they didn't know the answers to that, they created a position that my friend got to get his master's in trying to see if cacao was a potentially viable crop and to be able to consult on a basic level for it. And I'd wander into this lab to just hang out and found the whole process fascinating. I loved the fact that it was a fruit pod that was growing here. The orchards were beautiful. It's an agroforestry type of plant, so it grows well with other plants. In fact, it kind of needs shade trees and things like that. So the environment's beautiful. And then the whole fermentation part of it, drying, and then the processing, I just really liked it. And what's more is that I tried what he was making, and it tasted really good. And I was asking questions like, how did you put...
that's all was happening in the lab.
Yeah, it was
so
just...
you were pretty much hanging out, doing your studies, and then hanging out with your buddy, and it was appealing to you.
Well, I wasn't doing too much of my studies. It was far less interesting than the cacao. And so I just kept going back, and it was a couple months later that I said, you know what? Hawaii doesn't have a chocolate factory yet. This is crazy. I need to start a chocolate factory. When in reality, there was one on the Big Island in Kona side, but I just didn't know about it at the time. But yeah, it's been an emerging industry ever since.
So let me dig a little bit deeper on this, how this all started. Was it just like you were wondering, like, hey, I'm graduating, I'm 23 or 24, have no clue what I'm going to do with my life. Like, it's about time for me to figure out what's my next step in life. Was it something like that?
Yeah, kind of. And in fact, a year or so before, I was kind of trying to find my path. And I think a lot of people in college, as they near the end, they're kind of like, what am I going to do with my life? What's my dent in the world? How am I going to make an impact? And I had a lot of those feelings, and I was forcing things like, I thought I'd start a solar company or a renewable energies company or a sustainable forest management company. I knew I wanted to start a company that I could grow and have some type of social or environmental impact. And so chocolate hit this checklist for me of what I found important in a business where we're planting trees here in Hawaii. It's an agroforestry thing. I love fruit trees. And then I was able to manufacture a product that's very high quality from these fruit trees and export it all over the world. And so I loved the economic side of that as well.
So there was a lot of potential. That's what you're saying.
Yes, I could see a lot of potential.
Was there
At the time, it didn't seem like it.
Well, of course, because everybody's looking, what? They're going to ask you, you're going to do that? Why don't you go find a job in a bank or something like that? Right? Sure. Was there any aspect of business that you were like concerned about in the beginning? Because
yeah,
you technically your degree wasn't in any business, so you didn't have any formal education on it. Mostly like what you learn as you go, right? The basics. So what was the concern?
Right after I graduated high school, I kind of knew that I wanted to do business, and I started. One of the first classes I took was accounting, and I ended up. It's the only class I've ever really failed. And that really turned me off of anything business until maybe like 4 years later when I was coming close to graduating. So I didn't understand accounting at all and taxes and all that. And that got me in a lot of trouble for the first couple of years. And that followed me for
another couple of years.
More than a couple of years, yeah.
all the G
I made a lot of mistakes. I was trying. I just made a lot of mistakes. And there were penalties associated with that.
So like failure, like certain failure plan, if you look backwards, how you could change that? If you're starting today, this is 2010, 2012 coming, you're opening up store, what you will do differently at that time?
Well, I would certainly try harder to get more money to start.
Okay.
I was very strapped. I asked
How did you start it?
I took a student loan before I graduated because I knew that I would actually be able to get money from somebody. And then I bought lots of small-scale equipment. I know you're not supposed to do that with your student loans, but...
There's a 7-year statute of limitations, so you're good.
Yeah. And it wasn't for a lot. It was like $3,000. And I bought these small grinders, and I bought this barbecue that we converted into a roaster and things like that. We built our own machines out of back massagers and what else did we use? We used a bicycle and a vacuum, and we really assembled our own equipment by watching YouTube videos. And once we had that, I was making chocolate at my parents' house. Outgrew that to the point where my mom was like, "Hey, you know,
it's time for you.
It's time to
beat it.
This is not cute anymore. I want my kitchen back." And I leased a space not far from their house and built a chocolate factory. It was really small, cute little chocolate factory. And then all the painful lessons began, because then we had real overhead, and I wasn't just doing it for fun. Like I had to do it, and I had to figure out how to pay all the money back. I, by that point, got a loan from Central Pacific Bank. I was asking for $75,000. They gave me 15, which was probably more generous than they should have been. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the initial capitalization? $3,000.
So the $3,000 that I borrowed from school. Then there was
student
loans. Yeah. Then there was $15,000 that the bank gave me, and that was half backed by the SBA. They wouldn't have given it to me if it wasn't for the SBA. So thanks to the SBA for that. And then the that didn't last very long. $15,000 goes real fast when you're trying to set up a store and buy equipment. So I burned through that, and then my parents loaned me another $15,000 interest-free for a year. And then, that's pretty much everything until I hit a point maybe a year and a half in where it was starting to sink pretty hard, and I needed to ask for more money. And fortunately, I had one friend who was like, "Well, I can see that you really need this and you're out of options." So, he wrote me a check for $5,000, and that was it. After that, we kind of got over a hump.
Did you need to give up some ownership shares because of that?
Nope.
It was a good friend then.
That was a good friend, yeah. He said, "You better pay me back. I don't care how long it takes, but as long as you pay me back, we're cool."
Okay, cool. So when you started, so let me just recoup. Like, you needed to figure out, first of all, the whole thing, everything that requires for you to produce the chocolate. You know, from A to Z. Like, from growing it to producing it, manufacturing it, packaging. Like, there was a lot of steps. And then on top of that, you added a business aspect, because this is a business now, because you want it. That's why you're starting, because it is a business.
Right. And there was two ways to start. We could start with our own farm, all right? I could start with a farm, or I could start with a factory. And in this case, I chose the factory, where I would buy the raw material. The cacao seed is a finished dried seed that I could convert into chocolate. So I didn't worry about the farming
What
side.
will be the difference if you didn't? Will you benefit more because you have raw, cheaper material that you can process it yourself?
It was a chicken before the egg thing. Like, what do you do first? Mm-hmm. Do you start your farm so you have beans so that you can make chocolate? Instead, I decided to buy whatever local supply I could, or buy foreign material, which would, say, come from the Dominican Republic or Costa Rica or Papua New Guinea. And I could make chocolate from all these regions. And what was so interesting about the type of chocolate we do, it's like craft beer, except it's craft chocolate. And we try and bring out the flavors from these places. So you will taste the difference between the same recipe from Papua New Guinea and, say, Dominican Republic or El Salvador or Brazil.
So there is a noticeable difference in taste.
Definitely. Yeah, there's terroir differences. There's genetic differences, just like grapes.
Okay, so you started it. You start moving it. You open up. In which point you decide that you need a retail store?
Originally, I did not want to retail.
That's where the overhead just shoots through the roof.
Right. And, so it was as soon as I moved out of my parents' kitchen that I had a retail shop, because I needed to manufacture somewhere. And we happened to be, this was the biggest blessing in disguise that happened, was we were over a popular breakfast restaurant. This is on the second floor. Like, retail on the second floor is not good, usually. And in our case, the breakfast place was so popular, we'd get overflow. And I'd be there trying to make chocolate, and I'd hear the door open, and I'd run out front, and someone would be like, "Yeah, okay, so I just saw the sign. It says a chocolate factory. Is that really what you're doing here? What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, here, come try this." And so I started doing tastings, and then people would buy a bar or two, and I started to retail. But originally, I just wanted to wholesale and not worry about having customers interrupt the production. I'm really happy that it worked that way, because it was almost a year before we had our first wholesale account, which was Whole Foods. And once that happened, it started to snowball. I want to say snowball, but it was like a very, very slow snowball at first. A very small one. And it's been pretty steady ever since.
So who helped you? I see you kind of like self-finance, like then you went to the bank, family, friends.
Yeah.
What about anybody else? Did anybody else help you? Not necessarily financially, but maybe with some consulting experience, maybe with some ideas, maybe with some creative ideas, like how to package
There's
all
been a
this,
lot
logos.
of help over the years in different forms. It was a few years later that I tried to get a bigger bank loan or increase our line of credit. And they said, well, we will probably be okay with it, but you need to go talk to the Small Business Development Center. And I was like, oh my gosh, do you have any idea how busy I am? I'm like working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I've been doing that for the last 1,000 days straight. Like, I don't have time for this. And they said, well, if you want some money, we strongly recommend you going to talk to them. And I said, okay, I want the money. And I went to the SBDC, and that was another really nice blessings in disguise. I have a great relationship with them still, and they consult on everything. They'll play your CFO role if you want them to. They'll help you get bank loans. They'll do whatever you need. So that's one of many.
Okay. What else? Anybody else? Was there anybody that you could, like, from the same industry go and ask the questions?
No, not really. There was, at the time I started, was kind of like the first big wave of craft chocolate makers starting up across the U.S. And this really has become a U.S.-led, just like craft beer in the U.S., the U.S. is leading for craft chocolate now. There's hundreds and hundreds of craft chocolate makers. And when we first started, I think we were number 24 in the United States from what we could tell. Now there's 400 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So there were other people, and there were certain blogs where you could write on the blogs and you could look up other answers and, like, how do you build your own winnowing machine? How do you determine what is a good bean versus a bad bean so that you can make good chocolate? Because that's really the whole thing, is how do you get really good beans? Once you do that, you can make good chocolate if you don't screw it up. But then, roasting profiles, dealing with different acidity levels in beans. Do you roast it at 245 degrees Fahrenheit, or do you roast it at 265 degrees Fahrenheit? Do you do it for 35 minutes? Do you do it for 25 minutes? All this really affects the end flavor. And that's the craft side of what we do.
How long it takes from the step one to A to Z?
Oh, that's very equipment dependent. But
okay.
Let's start on the farm. Once you plant a seed, it takes about 3 years before you see
results.
The tree start bearing fruit.
Okay.
Once you have that fruit, you need a sufficient quantity to harvest that is ripe, and then you have to crack them open, and you extract all these seeds that are surrounded by a pulp that's kind of like lychee, and then you pile it in a wooden box, and it ferments for about a week. It goes from anaerobic to aerobic.
So you need to do this manually?
Yeah.
Or it's automated right now?
Nope. This is all on the farming side, and
Wow.
it has to happen manually. There's no machines that'll do that for you. And then it's spread out and dried after that week of fermentation for about another week and a half. And then we would get them in big burlap sacks, and our chocolate making process would begin. And that's much quicker in comparison to the farming side, where we can roast in about half an hour. We can deshell it pretty fast. The same amount that we roasted, we can deshell in about a half hour as well, which is called winnowing. This is like separating the chaff of something, whether it's rice or grains, coffee, all that gets winnowed. Same for cacao. And then we can grind it up, and we now have machines that are really good. We have amazing equipment. So in 3 hours, we can use our ball mill, which has 80,000 little really hard metal balls that get agitated, and that refines our chocolate. And in 3 hours, we have the perfect texture. I mean, we get really geeky when we talk about this, but it's like we want the distribution curve of the microns, of the size of the microscopic pieces, the particles of chocolate, to be very close together. So that way when it melts in your mouth, it's very silky and smooth and consistent. Whereas stone grinders, which is kind of what we started with, you can never, your distribution curve is really big. You're going to get over-refined particles. You're going to get under-refined particles.
So it's going to taste inconsistent.
Yeah, it might taste a little bit like wet sandpaper, like on your teeth. If you were to chew on the chocolate, you'd feel grittiness on a real small level. So that's a result of. We still have stone grinders. We do small batches in them. There's nothing wrong with them. You just can't achieve the texture that we wanted to try and make the best chocolate.
So once you finish with that, well, how do you turn it into the different flavors? You told me one interesting thing earlier, and I have no clue, that actually you can have 100% cacao chocolate, so meaning like not adding any sugar to it.
Right. Yeah, okay, so At this point, we've refined the chocolate. We can add sugar. We usually do, but we don't have to. And the seed, all you got to do is take the shell off the seed, and you have something called nibs. A lot of people are starting to be familiar with nibs. It's becoming more and more trendy as a superfood, whatever that really means. It's loaded in antioxidants, iron and magnesium, super good for you. It's like eating nuts or seeds. And people put them in yogurt and cereals, smoothies. And if we just crush those up, that is chocolate. So you can take 2 rocks and start smashing nibs between, and you got a crude form of chocolate. For thousands of years, people in Central and South America just would mix that up after they smashed it up, and they would drink it. And then they'd have a lot of energy. So we now add sugar because once cacao made its way from Central America over to Spain, the Spanish royalty went, well, this is way too bitter for our taste. Let's try adding some sugar. And once they did that, they went, damn, this is really good. And it became the most popular drink in the world at that point, in Europe at least.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to continue. So I guess fast forward, you went through all these hoops, and now you are where you're at. So we're going to stop right here, take the break, and then when we come back, then we're going to talk about what's going on with the business right now. For those people that are tuning in late, today's guest is Dylan Butterbaugh. Manoa Chocolate, manoachocolate.com, retail store in Kailua. Where exactly in Kailua?
We are on, we're kind of near the library and the police station. We're above Cinnamon's restaurant. Yeah.
So there
Google
you go.
us.
Google it. Manoachocolate.com, or you can go on the website and take a look at the pictures, videos, and everything else what's on the website. I see you selling some shirt and hats.
Yeah, we have a pretty little retail shop. You can come in and
take a look at it. Awesome. My name is Marko Mijuskovic. You're listening to Hawaii Money Resource. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
.760 KGU.
Part of the Wall Street Business Network.
Time out! Okay, guys, Summers really had his bell rung and could have a concussion. I'm pulling him out for the game. Rodriguez, you're in for Summers.
Come on, Coach. It's just a ding. I'll shake it off.
Yeah, he's tough. Plus, we need to win this to make the playoffs.
Listen, we're a team and we need to look out for each other. Concussions are serious. No game is more important than your health.
Take concussions out of play. If you're a coach, know the warning signs and never let athletes return to play before a healthcare professional says it's okay. A message from CDC.
Everybody buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Everybody buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Everybody, buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom, can we get some ice cream?
Buckle up. Everybody, buckle up.
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but remember, you're in control. Stand firm. Only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Every single year, millions of average Americans like you have their personal lives virtually destroyed. In an instant, you could lose control of your bank accounts, credit cards, and worse, your very reputation can be stolen and violated. If you or a loved one is a victim of identity theft, FastIDRecovery.com can help you get it all back. At FastIDRecovery.com, you can put your trust in experts in the field of credit score restoration, IRS fraud resolution, document and ID replacement, and more. Without a fully managed protection and restoration service like FastIDRecovery.com, it can take hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars to reclaim what identity thieves have stolen and fix the chaos they leave behind. Your peace of mind is as valuable as your assets, and FastIDRecovery.com will get everything back, including your sanity. Relief is a simple click away at FastIDRecovery.com. That's FastIDRecovery.com.
You're listening to Hawaii Money Resource with financial advisor Marko Mijuskovic. If you'd like to speak to Marko, either on the air or after the show, call toll-free from Oahu and the outer islands, 877-695-2102. That's 877-695-2102.
Welcome back. You're listening to Hawaii Money Resource. My name is Marko Mijuskovic, Senior Partner of Wealth Strategy Partners, also Certified Exit Planner. What does that mean for you? That means if you're ready to sell your business, you come to us. We prepare you so you can sell it for maximum price and pay minimum taxes possible. BusinessExitPlanningHawaii.com, BusinessExitPlanningHawaii.com. But today, we have a Manoa chocolate in the house. Dylan Butterbaugh. Like, more he's talking and more I'm looking at his website with all these yummy looking chocolates. I'm like, okay, guys, let's hurry up, finish this up so we can go eat some. Dylan, we appreciate you sharing about how this all started. I know you want to mention a few people that did help you in growing the business, and we don't want to forget about them.
Yeah, so my wife actually started working on the weekends, and that was...
I cannot miss that
I couldn't miss that one, yeah.
Lifetime points.
Yeah.
Okay,
and she started helping on the weekends, and she was working at a sustainability firm within an architecture company downtown. And she ended up, after a few years, I really needed help. And
you sweet talked to her and she...
Yeah, pretty much. Something like that. And she started working full time. And so that was amazingly helpful. There's our head chocolate maker, Danny, who's, he's a rock star. He carries
magician behind the chocolate making.
He carries a lot of weight. But I have a really good team right now.
Okay.
We're at 22 people at this point in time. So we got a really good staff.
That's a lot of overhead.
Yeah, we got a lot of expenses.
So let's talk about it. How do you meet your projections, and how do you set your projections? And I know we talked a little bit around during the break, and you said it's really hard to figure out what's your real true cost, because it's not just cost of cacao that you buy. It's also there's other stuff that you need to layer into that cost.
Sure. Like when you have to ship stuff. Shipping here is not cheap, so we're always trying to figure out how do you buy bigger volumes to ship it together, and that ends up saving us over time. And so that was part of significant growing pains as well, because you use all your cash that you have, if there were profits, and they just go into inventory, which you then get taxed on. So you got to be really careful, but there's not much of a way around it.
What is the lifespan of one finished chocolate product?
That we're very lucky by. So it's 1.5 to 2 years on dark chocolate, and then it's a year on milk chocolate.
And you do not need to store it in any fridge or
in Hawaii you do. Room temperature here is not the same as room temperature on the mainland. It'll melt here. Yeah, it likes 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's where it starts melting.
No, that's where it's very happy. It's like wine. If you keep chocolate with your wine, you're good. If you have a wine fridge, that's perfect.
Put it in a wine fridge and you're good to go.
Yes, they tend to go together anyway. But I also keep it in my fridge. At home, I don't have a wine fridge. I keep it in the refrigerator. I just I almost never have problems. There's something that happens called blooming when the oil separates from the solids, and it looks white and old on top. There's nothing wrong with that at all. All you got to do is remelt it and mix it back up. It's like your jar of peanut butter. The oil rises to the top, you mix it back in.
When you buy Nutella and keep it on the shelf for a while.
Yeah, so it drives me nuts that people throw away their chocolate once they see that white film. It's just the oil.
Amateurs, they don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, what about so you said if you're shipping, how much raw material or cacao you need to ship? And why?
Let's see. 4 months ago, we got our first 20-foot container from Ecuador. Now,
why?
we try and buy as much as we can locally, but there just isn't enough supply. And we grew much faster than the trees and what we were able to purchase that was good quality. And then we've always been buying from other countries because that was we had to.
So supply was limited. It's not that you wanted to do the different tastes, or
it was
a little bit of both.
It was definitely both. I love buying from other places. Like part of the appeal was I want to go surf in a lot of these countries that we buy cacao from.
So they do that? No, not yet.
It's funny. What ended up happening is I had to go to the places to sell it, which means I've been to Tokyo a few times. I've been to, Paris a few times, and Germany and Seattle and San Francisco, and I'm going to Toronto in 2 days to meet a new distributor to get the rest of the Whole Foods on the other side of Canada.
So when you said 20-foot container, how many pounds is that?
That is 12,600 kilos. So
that's a lot that's
25,000 pounds or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I started working in kilos because that's the way
how everybody else do it. Except United
which is
States.
a very smart way to do it.
Yeah. We're crashing over here. Getting excited about chocolate. So how do you find your niche? Because are you still one of few manufacturers here in Hawaii?
Well, now there's maybe 6 to 8 different people who are making chocolate. So it's growing, but everyone's they're all still very small. Mm-hmm. And we'll try and help them as much as we can. We'll sell cocoa butter or beans if they would ask. But for the most part, everyone kind of just does their own thing, and a lot of it's on the different islands.
So
Big
how
Island,
you keep
Kauai.
yourself separate, taste-wise? How you carve out the market? How you make it different?
We're a niche within a niche. So craft chocolate is a niche within chocolate. And then we're Hawaiian.
What does that mean? Let's talk
chocolate.
about it. What does that really mean, niche chocolate?
Just a little focused area in a much broader
or craft
industry.
chocolate.
So what we started doing originally was we were making the best chocolate we possibly could, which was much better than normal chocolate because the beans that we use are higher quality. And that's really what it comes down to. You start with good beans, you can make good chocolate if you don't screw it up. And we were wanting to sell to people who cared about better chocolate, and they'd pay $8 to $10 for a bar because it is more flavorful, it's ethical, whatever their reasons were. Mainly it tastes better.
Okay.
But what ended up happening is that everyone who tried it would still be okay paying more money. So they'd come into our store and do a tasting, and they wouldn't normally be the person to pay $8 for a chocolate bar, but they would buy 5 chocolate bars at $8 each because they could taste the difference. It was a neat gift. It was authentic. They could see it being made there. So that's what I mean about a niche.
Okay. And how do you come up with the flavors? Because you mentioned earlier there was a lot of engineering behind it.
We've got our single origins, which means that we want you to only taste those origins. So if the beans came from Madagascar, or the beans came from Tanzania, or the beans came from Peru, you are going to only taste chocolate from there. We've added 30% sugar and 70% cacao from those countries. That's what you're tasting. And there is quite a distinctive difference in those flavors.
So you didn't want anything else.
We didn't want to add vanilla. We didn't want to. Okay. Yeah, we want you to taste that. And so then we also have inclusions. Inclusions is the industry term. We'll add things like Hawaiian sea salt on top. We will add nibs in coffee, which is called our breakfast bar. That's one of our most popular ones. Really good because the nibs, it's 100% chocolate, but it's very textural. So you get a good crunch. We've got a Maui lavender farm bar. So the Elite Kula lavender, we seep that in cocoa butter. We infuse that into the chocolate. We've got a goat milk chocolate. So we've got a rum one with Kohana rum. They make rum in Kunia. That's a really nice bar. And we've got a bunch of flavors.
Any pakalolo inside? No,
not yet.
Not yet. Gearing towards that.
Well,
exploring that.
There is a company in Colorado that was interested in buying our single origin chocolates. We would ship it to them, and they would then infuse it there. We're a chocolate maker, so we will make chocolate, but we wouldn't add it here locally. No. That would, I think, federally not be good for us.
You might not go far. So. You said 22 people. Overhead is probably high monthly burn, line of credits, meeting the payroll, lease.
Yeah, and right now we're also building a new factory. We're
expanding.
We have to be out of the factory we built 3 years ago. We outgrew it pretty quick, but we made it work. It had all the 3-phase power and whatnot. But we now are going to be in something 4 times that size.
So how are you handling business a segment of this business?
I guess I kind of thrive on the pressure in a certain way.
Do you still do it by yourself, or you equip yourself with
No.
the people who can actually help you? Something like this.
I'm around people who help me a lot. We just hired my wife's sister, who's been wonderful. She took almost all the administration responsibilities from me, and sees every email I get so that I don't miss anything, because I really don't like emails very much. Like even my mom started coming in years ago because I was like, Mom, I cannot collect the mail and sign the paychecks, and can you please just collect the mail and sign the paychecks and do some of these basic admin tasks and like send the mail out. And she did that for a few years until Tiffany took over. But yeah, I've been helped a lot by people very close to me.
How do you stay on top of it so you don't miss something? First of all, you don't miss, like, you know.
Well, maybe that comes back to like not having hobbies.
And not having a life.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty on it. I don't miss a lot. And I also am pretty careful what I say yes to.
Are you concerned that maybe you stretch yourself too thin?
I think I'm at the point as of now where I'm as thin as I've been since the startup phases. We're also starting we leased 55 acres on the North Shore to start our own farm because supply is quite an issue and I need to think ahead. So we started another business, and I've been working on it for about 2.5 years. We're going to do 25 acres of cacao up there, and we just finished our well. We need to get the HECO hookup so our well pump can actually supply water.
How big of a project was that?
Oh, it's big. I mean, we're going to probably spend close to $1 million by the time it's operational, and that's kind of bootstrapping it, I guess. It's as cheap as we can do it.
Especially because it takes 3 years for you to harvest.
Yeah, and then we got to hire a lot of people, so labor's not cheap here, and that's what. The reason most people do it in other countries, like the Ivory Coast or Ghana or Uganda or Indonesia,
it's cheap.
Labor costs and land
so
costs.
So that square footage of land that you got, how much cacao you can get?
We're going to do about 25 acres, so something like 8 hectares, and that's probably not going to be enough for us by the time it's producing, but it's a decent amount, and we'll hopefully get close to a ton an acre. If we're really lucky. So we would get
kilos.
Yeah, 1,000 kilos per acre, which would be that's ideal. So even if we get, say, 75% of that, that's still all right.
So I guess in that point you can really say like it's all grown and produced and sold in Hawaii.
Yeah, because the idea is to start an industry here. I really like the Napa Valley concept, just because here you have some of the nicest, beautiful land in California, some of the most expensive stuff, and it's just covered in grapevines and chateaus that then make wine. People go to the restaurants there. They enjoy the vineyards, and then they buy wine and taste wine, and everyone seems to love Napa. So I think we can do the same thing here in Hawaii with cacao orchards, where you have a chocolate factory that sits on the hill over a 50-acre cacao orchard where they're then processing their own beans from maybe genetics that were chosen by that chocolate factory. So this is kind of the future of chocolate that we're working towards.
PR, marketing?
We have zero marketing budget. It's always been that way. We've been very fortunate with marketing, especially the Japanese. Pretty early on, in the very beginning, I took a bicycle and hooked it up to a cracking device that we made out of PVC and plywood and a back massager and a vacuum. And the Japanese thought that was great, and everyone thought it was cute and funny. But they put it in their magazines and their guidebooks. And what happened kept us alive, besides cinnamons. We started getting a decent amount of Japanese tourism that revenue kept us going. And so they'd take back omiyage, and that's their culture. And we were a very appropriate omiyage, authentic gift that was quality.
What about the distribution outside of Hawaii?
Yeah, that's what I'm focusing most on, and it's our fastest growing area. So in the beginning, we were almost 99% retail. Then it went to, say, 80% the next couple years later. And then it was, we're at about 50% retail now, 30% wholesale, 20% distribution.
Quick break. Then we're going to come back and ask you 3 questions on the end. Today's guest is Dylan Butterbaugh. I'm losing it. Manoa Chocolate, manoachocolate.com, Manoa Chocolate in Kailua. My name is Marko Mijuskovic. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
760 KGU.
Part of the Wall Street Business Network.
Chloe, put your helmet on.
Okay, Dad.
You work hard to protect your family, but some risks are easy to miss. Mosquito bites can spread germs that cause West Nile virus or Zika virus. Cockroaches leave behind bacteria as well as allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Stinging insects send more than 500,000 people to the emergency room every year. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org, a public service message from the National Pest Management Association and the CDC.
People put a lot of thought into going into business, but not so much into how they'll get out, which makes it easy to get stuck. That's why Marko Mijuskovic handpicks a team of lawyers, accountants, tax, and industry specialists to help you make your business exit plan. You get yourself into business, Marko will help you get out. Registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS, OSJ 7 Hanover Square, New York, New York, 10004, 1-888-600-4667. Securities, products, and advisory services offered through PAS, member FINRA, SIPC, financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America. Guardian, New York, New York, PAS is an indirect wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Wealth Strategy Partners, LLC is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. 2015-09890.
You're listening to Hawaii Money Resource with financial advisor Marko Mijuskovic. If you'd like to speak to Marko, either on the air or after the show, call toll-free from Oahu and the outer islands, 877-695-2102. That's
877-695-2102. Welcome back. You're listening to Hawaii Money Resource. My name is Marko Mijuskovic. Another great show today. Dylan Butterbaugh. Dylan and his company is Manoa Chocolate. ManoaChocolate.com, store located in Kailua. You can visit on the website, ManoaChocolate.com, ManoaChocolate.com. A lot of good stuff. At least looks good. I didn't have a chance to try it yet, but we're going to definitely go check them out directly in their manufacturing facility in Kailua. Dylan, we have three and something minutes left for today's show, and I usually ask people on the end of the show these three questions. First question is, what is the ultimate vision?
Yeah, the ultimate vision is very similar to that Napa Valley concept that I was just explaining. I'd like to see 10, 15 different chocolate makers in one region of Oahu or Hilo or Kauai where they're making chocolate on that same vineyard, orchard in this case, and you have people visiting them and tasting them and having a beautiful experience and taking home an authentic present that would then keep agroforestry.
Did you think about what will be ideal location for that?
Yeah, there's a few places. Waialua is one of them.
Did you form a little association, chocolate maker association yet?
We do. It's not that little anymore.
Well, you said there is only six to eight.
But there's a lot of growers. There's still university professors. And there were 75 people at our last conference. We went
locally.
And it's on a different island every year. So the last one was on Oahu. We organized it and hopped around to every site that's growing cacao and making chocolate.
Did you guys pass the chocolate to the people to try it?
For sure. There was people that came from the Ivory Coast, people that came from all over the U.S. Guittard Chocolate is the oldest chocolate company in the U.S. They're in San Francisco. They came. They've been a few times. Scharfenberger visited a few times ago. We've had some really good guests every year.
So I guess that's the only way. Pulling the weight together with everybody.
And trying to be as open as possible so that people don't make the same mistakes. I mean, it's
perfect. I like the concept. Yeah. So there's no real competition. It's more like collective growth.
I certainly like to look at it that way.
Perfect. Second question is, what is your exit out of this business?
There's no plan B and there's no exit.
Well, okay. Well, you're still young, so you have plenty more years to go.
I'm 32, so I got plenty of time to think about that. But I like what I'm doing. I mean, if I were to sell it, say in 10 years,
what else are you going to do?
What am I going to start another chocolate company?
Probably not. Last question before we check out for today. Word of wisdom for someone who is starting the brand new company, someone like you, 7-8 years ago. What do you give them some suggestion?
Well, there's certainly advice. A lot of great podcasts. And
30 seconds.
There's a lot of great podcasts out there. There's a lot of great resources, especially like the Small Business Development Center, which is in Manoa. that is such a good resource. And they can really help connect you with people you would need to and hold your hand through a lot of what would otherwise be very painful.
Perfect. I think that's very good. Dylan, thank you so much for being guest at Hawaii Money Resource today.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Perfect. Dylan Butterbaugh, Manoa Chocolate, manoachocolate.com. My name is Marko Mijuskovic. That was another great show. Stay tuned and we'll be back shortly.
The Living Balance Sheet and the Living Balance Sheet logo are registered service marks of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, New York, New York. The graphics and text used herein are the exclusive property of Guardian and protected under U.S. and international copyright laws. Copyright 2005 to 2011. The Guardian Life Insurance Company of America. This show is for informational purposes only. Individual risk tolerance and investment objectives must be reviewed prior to making any specific recommendations. Marko Mijuskovic is a registered representative and financial advisor for Park Avenue Securities, LLC, 7 Hanover Square, New York, New York, 10004. Securities products, services, and advisory services are offered through Park Avenue Securities, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor. 888-600-4667. Financial representative, the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, New York, New York. Park Avenue Securities is an indirect, wholly owned subsidiary of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America. Wealth Strategy Partners is not an affiliate or subsidiary of Park Avenue Securities or the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America. Park Avenue Securities is a member FINRA SIPC.